These are the biggest deals on Pawn Stars. 90 kilos of silver. This man wants to sell his silver ingots, unaware they're worth a huge amount. It's a large amount of silver, including old coins, some bars, and a heavy 30-kilogram block. The owner comments that he invested all his savings in silver many years ago and thinks it's a good time to sell it. Rick is fascinated and comments that until 1964, the country's coins were made of silver, and that in the late 1990s, silver cost only $3 an ounce. Rick explains that silver is the best conductor of electricity in existence, and the widespread use of electronic devices has caused its value to increase exponentially. However, there's a big problem with the largest bar, as they are often altered by scammers who fill them with lead. Before buying it, he needs to make sure it's 100% silver. Rick then takes the largest bar for examination, and after some tests, he concludes the following.
Yeah, it's alright, it's fine.
The test was successful, and Rick proceeded to offer $110,000.
You got a total of $110,901.
The seller was a little disappointed with this price and asked for $115,000. The owner wasn't too keen on the prospect of having to transport all this money elsewhere, so he happily accepted Rick's offer.
Well, I bought it 12 years ago for way less than that. 111 sounds good to me.
Spacelander Bicycle. Chumley makes an unexpected discovery while driving through Las Vegas. He sees a rare bicycle, a model known for its futuristic design and its scarcity, as only around 80 units were made. Excited by the find, Chumley stops to take a look at the bike and learns from the owner that it was a Christmas gift from 1960. The owner, who had kept the bike for decades, initially had no intention of selling it, but due to some legal issues, decided to let it go.
I got a legal issue coming up and I need some cash.
He asked for $20,000, but Chumley made him this offer.
Would you be willing to take $7,000 for it?
You want to go up to 12?
87 and I can do it, man. All right, 8,700.
Chumley proudly takes the bike back to the shop, eager to see how Rick will react. Although Rick is initially surprised by the purchase, he acknowledges that Chumley got a good deal considering these rare bicycles can sell for between $12,000 and $20,000. Satisfied with Chumley's performance, Rick rewards him with a $1,000 bonus, recognizing his efforts and the good deal he made. Snowden Sculpture. This woman wants to sell a horrible art sculpture. It is a work of art made by the famous sculptor M.L. Snowden. The owner says that her ex-father-in-law gave it to her, and that is why she wants to get rid of it. Rick is fascinated by the sculpture and recognizes that it is a type of art that not everyone likes and can even be horrible to some. In addition, the sculpture is authentic because it has the artist's signature, and it is the 14th of 25 that were made. Rick comments that he always calls an expert when negotiating with expensive works, but at the moment, one is not available. However, he decides to take a risk and makes the following offer.
I'll give you 20 grand.
Deal. I'll take it.
Whoa, that was easy.
Rick is intrigued by how easy the negotiation was and thinks that maybe he has paid too much money, so he decides to call his art expert to find out if he made a good purchase. The expert arrives and comments that it is one of Snowden's most famous bronze sculptures entitled Photon, a type of art that not everyone knows how to appreciate.
All right, the big question, what's it worth? Because I paid a lot of money for it.
I would put this one probably at about 36,000.
Okay.
Corey and Chumley can't believe that ugly sculpture is worth so much, and Rick is pleased with his purchase. Arnold Schwarzenegger's Audemars Pigue watch. A confident-looking man entered the store carrying a briefcase. What he pulled out from inside was an Audemars Pigue Royal Oak End of Days, a piece instantly recognizable as one of the most iconic watches in the collectible world. The watch was a Swiss masterpiece. Its 42mm matte black coated stainless steel case contrasted dramatically with its fluorescent yellow markers and textured rubber strap. It was bold, masculine, and futuristic. This watch was created in 1999 to coincide with the release of End of Days, the apocalyptic film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. It wasn't simply an accessory, it was one of the first major collaborations between a high-end watchmaking firm and a film production. What makes this watch particularly coveted among collectors is its extreme rarity. According to Audemars Piguet, only 500 units were made. The seller explained that he had acquired it at a private auction in Geneva 3 years earlier. The owner was asking $40,000, a considerable sum even for a watch of this caliber and exclusivity. Rick, always cautious with pieces of this value, called his luxury watch expert. The expert confirmed the watch's authenticity and its excellent condition, but highlighted the lack of a proven direct connection to Schwarzenegger. Without that verifiable connection, the watch was worth considerably less than the seller was asking. After a thorough appraisal, the expert valued the watch at between $22,000 and $28,000, significantly below the $40,000 asking price. Rick offered $20,000, arguing that he would need space to make a profit and that finding a buyer for such a specialized watch could take time. The seller, convinced of the watch's future potential, was unwilling to accept less than $35,000. After several counteroffers that failed to bring the two sides together, the negotiation finally ended with no deal being made. Wheellock Puffer Pistol. This man came into the pawn shop wanting to sell a Wheellock pistol. The seller says he acquired this item at an auction, where he paid $175 for a unit containing old furniture and dusty boxes. But at the bottom of a worn trunk, he found this antique pistol. Rick, seeing the detailed engravings and mechanism of this pistol, was speechless. He couldn't believe this weapon had arrived in his store, since these weapons are so rare that most are in museums. So Rick decided to call an expert to see if it was authentic. Upon arrival, the expert confirmed it was authentic, dating from the 16th century, made in Germany, and the most surprising thing was that it worked. This made its value at auction around $50,000. The seller was amazed to find a priceless historical relic. Rick began his negotiation by offering $15,000, but the seller, knowing the gun's value, said he wouldn't sell it for less than $40,000. Finally, Rick made his final offer, $20,000 cash right away. After an eternal dramatic pause, the seller accepted. Dodge Brothers Sedan. This man wants to sell his 1924 classic car. In this episode, Corey and the old man receive a classic Dodge Brothers car that is almost 100 years old and has a top speed of 65 kilometers per hour. The owner of the vehicle comments that it has already been restored. Corey and the old man check it out and realize that they did a poor job on the car and that it would need a new restoration. Then they ask him how much he wants for the car. Let's see.
What are you looking to get out of it? I'd like to have around 14.5, something like that.
Corey decides to call his car expert to find out the value of the car in that condition. Before giving a figure, the expert wants to test the car's performance, so they go for a ride to test it. They start the car and hit the road. Everyone enjoys the ride in the classic car. In general, it runs very well for being almost 100 years old. The expert gives it a value of $8,000 in that condition. The seller is shocked by this price and disagrees with the evaluation given by the expert. He then says that he wants $11,000 for the car.
I'd like to have 11, something like that.
Corey and the old man, without even thinking, reject the offer, and the old man goes ahead and makes the following offer.
I'll go to 7.
Let's go 75.
I'll go 7,500 bucks.
Gold bar. This man didn't know he had a very valuable pirate treasure. It's a very valuable solid gold bar. The owner comments that he found it at his grandmother's house and doesn't know how old it is. Rick notices something strange about the gold bar. He notices it has some strange markings, which he didn't know what they meant. It also had a bit of coral attached to it, which made him think the bar came from a shipwreck or from a treasure at the bottom of the sea. Rick suspects this gold bar is special, so he decides to call an expert to find out its true value. The expert arrives, and Rick asks him about the markings and the coral on the gold bar. The expert comments that in the 1500s, they put that mark on 24-karat gold. Regarding the embedded coral, he explains that it had to spend decades underwater to bond with the gold, and concludes the following.
This is definitely shipwreck treasure.
Okay.
Sweet.
With that, Rick asks him the most important question.
So how much do you think it's worth?
Mil times 2.
So you're telling me that's worth $48,000?
In that neighborhood.
The seller, surprised by the appraisal, is excited at the possibility of a big profit.
I'll give you $35,000 and I don't even want to pay you that.
All right.
$35,000.
A few weeks later, the ingot was displayed in the store and attracted serious buyers. It ultimately sold for an impressive sum, much more than what the seller had anticipated. Black Widow brooch. This woman didn't know she had a very valuable jewel. It is a very strange jewel made by the famous Russian jeweler Peter Fabergé, whose works are the most valued in the world. The owner comments that her grandmother inherited it many years ago and she wants to sell it because she doesn't like spiders. Rick realizes at first glance that it is an authentic jewel with different types of diamonds embedded in it, such as rubies and sapphires. Rick comments that there is a legend that revolves around Fabergé. It is said that 100 years ago he made 69 Easter eggs that are considered masterpieces of jewelry. The mysterious part is that 7 of them are lost and everyone is looking for them because each egg is worth millions of dollars. That is why Rick does not doubt that Fabergé's Black Widow could be very valuable and decides to be honest with the owner.
How much were you looking to get out of it?
Couple thousand?
I would really like to give you like $2,000 for it. but I'll give you $15,000 for it.
The seller is left speechless by the astronomical price given by Rick, and after finding out that this piece was extremely valuable, she goes ahead and asks $17,000 for the brooch. Rick rejects this offer and says that he is only willing to pay $15,000.
I will give you 15. That's more than a fair offer.
All right, you're a good man.
Okay.
Thank you.
George Washington's suit. This man asked for $3 million for George Washington's suit. It is a suit that belonged to George Washington, the first president of the United States. The owner says he bought it at an auction more than 20 years ago and assures that it is one of the jewels of his collection.
Does it have a price on it?
Everything has a price.
So how much?
I wouldn't sell for less than $3 million.
Rick comments that George Washington was one of the most amazing men in history because he could have been ruler for life, but chose to retire after 2 terms and set the standard for subsequent presidents. However, he admits that he never imagined being able to buy something of his in such good condition, and knows that the price is unreasonable, so to be safe, he decides to consult with his trusted expert. The expert examines the garment and discovers that it was originally pink, a striking color that reflected status and elegance, something that George Washington always tried to convey.
So you think this is all legit and everything, right?
Yes, I think it is.
Rick is left in shock by this price, but he knows it can be worth that amount since it's an extremely rare piece. However, before making a decision, Rick wants to think about it and asks the seller to meet the next day. Rick meets with the seller again and offers $1,500,000 for the suit.
1.5?
No,
The seller quickly rejected this offer and was only willing to drop his price to $2,500,000.
absolute best price would be $2.5 million.
Okay, well, I guess the suit's out then.
World War II bicycle. This woman didn't know she had a very valuable antique bicycle. It's an old military bicycle that can be folded for easy transport.
Yeah, see, it folds up. For easy transportation.
The owner says it belonged to her great-grandfather, and all she knows is that it was from World War II, and she hopes to get at least $1,000 for it. Rick is fascinated because the bike is in very good condition, and he knows that all military objects sell very well, so he decides to take a chance and offers the following.
Would you take $300 for it?
How about 500?
Rick hesitates to give her the $500 because he hasn't called an expert, but Chumley tells him not to be stingy and convinces him.
You know what, yeah, I'll do the $500.
Good, thank you.
However, Rick is intrigued by the true value of the bike and decides to call an expert to find out if he got a good deal. The expert arrives and confirms that it is an aerial folding bicycle and comments that it was used by paratroopers in World War II. The expert then proceeds to examine the bike and is surprised because it still retains all the original details and parts intact despite its age.
So what are they worth?
I wouldn't be surprised if you got $5,000 for this.
Rick is extremely happy about this price since he only paid $500, which makes this buy very successful. Boba Fett prototype. This man wants to sell his Star Wars figure. It's a prototype of Boba Fett, the most famous bounty hunter in the galaxy. The customer explains that it's the only model that has a rocket firing mechanism, a feature that was canceled before mass production because the factory deemed it dangerous for children. Rick admits he doesn't know much about Star Wars, but he does know that it's one of the most successful franchises in history and that many people collect its items, so he decides to call in an expert to evaluate its authenticity. The expert arrives and is impressed. He immediately recognizes the figure's importance and begins to analyze every detail.
So is it real?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. This is the holy grail of Star Wars toy collecting.
After learning this, Rick asks the following question.
What do you think I could sell it for?
Minimal $125,000.
After giving this evaluation, the expert leaves, and Rick asks if the seller is firm on $150,000. The seller replies that $150,000 is a bargain, but Rick says that he doesn't want to buy it for an investment and offers him $100,000.
I'd give you $100,000 for it.
I'm sorry, I can't do $100,000.
Elephant bird egg. A woman came to the pawn shop with an egg from an extinct elephant bird. The seller said it could hold as much as 160 chicken eggs. Rick's jaw dropped when he saw the egg. It was impressive. He immediately ordered her to put it on the counter. The woman told them she had bought the egg at an auction in Florida 10 years ago. The previous owner was a hunter who brought it from Madagascar in the 1950s. Rick examined the object as if he were touching a bomb. When he finished, he called an expert to verify its authenticity. When the expert arrived, he set to work with his instruments and, after examining the egg, concluded that it was an egg from Epiornis maximus, the famous elephant bird of Madagascar. These birds were enormous, reaching over 3 3 meters in height and weighing up to 500 kilograms. Rick then asked how old this object was. The expert says that unlike dinosaurs, these birds became extinct 1,000 years ago, probably because humans hunted them and destroyed their habitat. As always, Rick asked about the value, to which the expert told him this.
So tell me, is it worth it? Elephant load of cash?
$5,900.
With that information, Rick offered him $2,800. The seller counteroffered, asking for $3,000, and Rick made him this final offer.
I'll give you $2,800 for it.
Fine. Okay.
All right, sweet, we have a deal.
Simpsons figurine collection. This man wants to sell his Simpsons toy collection. It is a collection of original Simpsons figures with their sealed packaging. The owner comments that his collection was stored in the garage for more than 20 years and that it was time to get rid of them.
What kind of price are you looking for? Because
So I'm looking for $2,000.
The seller argues that it is a fair price since his collection separately can sell for up to $100 or $200 each. On the other hand, Chumley explains that it will take a lot of time and work to sell the entire collection and make a profit, so he decides to call an expert to find out if it is worth buying it. The expert comments that The Simpsons is the most successful animated series in the history of the United States, with 36 seasons and more than 780 episodes since it began airing in 1989 until the present. That said, Chumley asked the following.
So what do you think this collection is worth?
So for this type of a collection, I would expect your return on this to be around $2,200.
The seller is very disappointed by this price since previously he paid much more for these figurines. After the expert left, Chumley went ahead and offered $700. The seller couldn't believe this low price and counter-offered with $1,000.
If you do $1,000, this would be awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Abraham Lincoln card. A customer named Greg brings a remarkable artifact, a business card signed by Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States. Greg explains that this card features a portrait that served as the basis for the image on the Lincoln penny, making it an exceptional item.
He did the image for the $5 bill and the cent, and this is the basis of the Lincoln penny.
He believes a fair price for the card would be $100,000. Rick shows great interest, recognizing the rarity of a piece like this. To verify the card's authenticity, Rick calls in an expert on historical documents. The expert compares the signature on the card with known authentic examples, confirming that it is indeed signed by Lincoln. He estimates the card's value at around $150,000.
What's it worth?
You probably put a price of $150,000.
Greg then attempts to negotiate a better price. He suggests that $120,000 would be a fair price, and even claims that the card would still be profitable at that price. However, Rick remains firm and offers this.
I'll give you $100,000.
We had a deal.
John Hancock's watch. This man entered the shop with a fascinating set of historical artifacts, a vintage Swiss pocket watch and a waistcoat that belonged to John Hancock, a key figure in American history. Brian, known for his impressive collection of Revolutionary War artifacts, has been trying to have these items appraised and is excited to share them with Rick. Brian reveals that the pocket watch belonged to John Hancock, one of the principal signers of the Declaration of Independence, and he has valued it at $150,000. Along with the watch, he is also offering Hancock's 17th century waistcoat, valuing the entire lot at $400,000.
How much do you want for these?
I'd sell the pair at $400,000.
Rick's interest is particularly focused on the pocket watch due to its historical significance. He points out that owning an 18-karat gold watch in the late 18th century was an important status symbol, making it a highly coveted item. Rick knows that Hancock was one of the wealthiest people in New England, which increases the watch's appeal. Brian adds further value to the object by pointing out that the clock has been part of his family's collection for the past 150 years. He mentions that he acquired the items at auction 10 to 15 years ago. To authenticate the clock's provenance, Brian presents a letter from 1890 detailing the clock's historical journey through his family. Although impressed by the historical value, he feels the price of $150,000 is too high. Rick makes a starting offer of $125,000, hoping to avoid lengthy negotiations.
Why don't you just let me give you $125,000 and then we don't have to go back and forth.
However, Brian is firm on his price, arguing that he cannot accept anything less than $150,000. After a meeting, Rick proposes a compromise of $140,000 for the clock, but Brian remains adamant. Brian eventually accepts Rick's offer.
You have a deal.
Thanks.
They both agree to finalize the sale and complete the paperwork the next day. Triple Crown Trophy. This man asked for $500,000 for his trophy. It is the Triple Crown Trophy, one of the most prestigious awards in the world of horse racing. It is awarded to the horse that wins the 3 most important competitions in the United States in the same year. The seller says that he bought the trophy when he worked with the trainer of the horse, affirmed one of the fastest horses in history, winner of this trophy in 1978.
What are you looking to get out of it? 500,000.
Corey, amazed and speechless, accepts that he does not know about this sport and the possible value of this historical piece, so he decides to call an expert.
Unbelievable. I've actually never seen one. Wow.
The astonished expert recognizes that it is the first time he has seen this trophy in his entire career, since they have never come on the market before, and that it is such a unique trophy that it should be in a museum. Having said that, the expert gives the following valuation.
This is worth $500,000.
Everyone is left shocked by this price, and after the expert left, Corey offered $125,000 for the piece. The seller stayed firm on his $500,000 asking price, and even after Corey raised his offer to $225,000, the seller still wasn't willing to drop his price, so in the end, no deal was made. Godzilla Toy. This man wants to sell a Godzilla from the 70s. The owner of the Godzilla comments that it only went on sale in Japan, and that it is a collectible treasure. Let's see how much he asked for it.
Any idea what you're looking to get out of it?
I want $2,500.
Corey comments that he doesn't know how much a Godzilla from that year can be worth, so he decides to call his toy expert. The expert arrives and is impressed with the good condition of the toy, especially considering how delicate these old models used to be. The absence of cracks in the tail, the conservation of details like the teeth, and its particular working sound make this Godzilla a true gem. Then Corey asks him the following question.
Give me an idea of what you think it's worth.
Before giving his assessment, the expert highlights that the toy still has the original box and comments the following.
The fact the box is here is actually a really nice piece to have.
That said, let's see how much the expert values it at.
Shop would have no problem getting $2,500 for it.
The expert values the toy at $2,500, but Corey says he has to make some money, so he offers him $1,500. The seller rejects the offer, saying that he wants $2,000 for the toy, and Chumley proceeds to make this final offer.
Go $1,900 for me.
$1,900. You got a deal.
Boutet Shotgun. This man wants to sell a Boutet Shotgun. It is one of the most valuable shotguns in the world. The owner says he inherited the shotgun from his father and wants to sell it because his wife doesn't like seeing it hanging on the wall. Rick comments that this shotgun was made by the best gunsmith in history, Boutet, who was also Napoleon's gunsmith, and in most cases these shotguns were made for royalty. Rick then asks him how much he wants for the shotgun.
Well, how much do you want for it? Because if he wants $50, I'll just give him that now. And we'll...
I'm looking at 10 grand.
Rick comments that he is not sure of its possible great value, so he decides to call his weapons expert Alex Cranmer to verify its authenticity and value. The expert arrives and examines the shotgun in detail and is surprised at its good condition. However, the expert needs to shoot it to determine its true value. Everyone is surprised at how well it shoots, and that makes its value increase from $10,000 to $30,000.
What do you think it's worth?
I wouldn't be surprised to see it sell it for $30,000.
The seller is very happy with this price and asks for $20,000 for the shotgun.
So you were asking 10. I'm assuming you want a little bit more now?
20.
Rick declines this asking price and counteroffers $16,000.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you 16 grand for it.
It's a lot more than I thought I would get. We'll do 16.
1715, Spanish Fleet coin. This man didn't know he had a very valuable gold coin. It's an 18th century Peruvian gold coin known as the 8 escudos. The owner says he inherited it from his grandfather but knows absolutely nothing about the coin. Rick is fascinated by the coin's beauty and recognizes that it's one of the most sought after treasures by collectors. He can't believe this guy wants to sell it for only $2,000. However, Rick thinks it's too good to be true and is aware that there are many counterfeits out there, so he decides to call an expert to make sure it's 100% authentic. The expert arrives and explains that this gold coin is the largest made by the Spanish during the colonial era of Peru. He then proceeds to review all the details of the coin and comes to the following conclusion.
It's absolutely genuine.
Okay.
After learning this, Rick asks the following question.
What do you think this is worth?
I would put a price tag of $18,000 on it.
Okay.
The expert leaves and the negotiation begins. Rick explains that he must have a profit margin and makes him an offer.
Why would we give you 10 grand for it?
How about 12?
How about 10 grand?
No, I can take it somewhere else.
The owner tells him he could sell it elsewhere. Rick knows the gold coin is an excellent buy and can't pass up this opportunity.
I wouldn't take anything less than 11,000.
11,000.
11,000.
Okay.
Got a deal.